Welcome back. My name again is Dr. Ivy Brennan, and if you're joining me for the first time, I'm a naturopathic doctor in New York City, seeing patients remotely all over the states and all over the world, specifically patients looking for help with women's issues, hormones, digestive health, and skin. And if you like this video, don't forget to like it. And also don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel because we're always adding new videos and very exciting content. So today we're talking about skin. We're specifically talking about one of the most common conditions I see in my practice, acne. Acne, unfortunately, is not just something that you have to deal with, perhaps in during like early stages of puberty and your teenage years, but many of my patients are actually adults, and some of these adults with acne didn't even start getting acne actually into their 30s, and then even some women in menopause can also be experiencing acne. So, what are the main causes of acne? So, probably the number one, specifically again, because I work with so many women with hormonal issues, hormones play a huge part in acne. And the reason being is that one of the primary drivers of acne is androgens. So, androgens are our male hormones. So, if we already know about estrogen and progesterone are female associated hormones. Well, both men and women, both at different levels, have quote unquote female hormones and androgen male like hormones. And so we're talking about testosterone and specifically imbalances of dihydrotestosterone, which is a very potent form of testosterone, and also DHEA, which is produced both in the adrenal glands but also in the ovaries or testes. So basically, male hormones, androgens, boost up sebum, aka oil, production, which basically feeds bacteria and leads to breakouts, specifically really deep cystic acne. And I'll talk a little bit even about some of like where you find acne and how that is a sign of the root cause. The other big cause is stress. So stress, and specifically, actually, if you want to find out even more information on how stress and anxiety can cause breakouts, as well as how acne can also cause stress and anxiety, feel free to watch my video on acne and anxiety. But the big thing with stress is that it causes our adrenal glands to go into overdrive, producing a lot of cortisol, leading to inflammation. But also, again, if we think about androgens, our adrenal glands are responsible for producing DHEAS, which is one of our androgens. So definitely in acute times of stress and chronic stress can lead to acne, as well as some of the lifestyle and diet behaviors that are associated with stress that also increase breakouts. Diet. So diets rich in high refined carbohydrates and sugars, as well as dairy and alcohol, all have been associated with acne. There's different reasons for this. First of which is inflammation. And basically, acne is another inflammatory process in the body. And basically, when the bacteria is eating up the oil, our body starts mounting an inflammatory response against the bacteria, and that's why you get the breakouts. The other big thing, specifically refined carbohydrates and sugars and dairy and alcohol, all have an impact on blood sugar levels and insulin. And focusing on insulin, when insulin goes up, we're going to be having more what's called insulin-like growth factor. And oh my goodness, I've definitely seen that really play a big role in the formation of acne. gut health. So definitely gut health has a big part to play in acne. One, because of bacteria, and there's definitely, again, because like if we think about what is causing the acne, but it's bacteria eating the sebum and then mounting this immune response. So making sure that you're having proper balance of beneficial bacteria, but also when we think about gut health, and if you want to see my video on leaky gut, I'll even explain more of why when you have a leaky gut, you're increasing inflammation and why inflammation can result in acne. And then the last, and it's kind of a little bit tied in with some of the other things that I had mentioned before, is detoxification. So specifically one, liver detoxification, but even also